the suppression of the use of marijuana and of the forces lurking behind it are the most important jobs this department is now engaged in. In 1930, the records on marijuana in the Washington office of the Narcotics Division scarcely filled a small folder like this. Today, they fill cabinets.
Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, Coloradians, and everyone that's smart enough to listen from the outside.
It's one of the most amazing plants we've ever discovered.
The pot party, the trippers, the grasshoppers, the hip ones, all gathered in secrecy and flying high as a kite.
I got Winnie Bucks.
Those cookies were magnificent.
See, Lauren, if you weren't sick, I would have brought you a cookie today. Because I gotta
Wait, fuck, you have more cookies and you're not even at the studio right now?
Dude,
Wow.
I gotta get him out of the fucking house. Because
Why'd you only give me one cookie then?
I couldn't agree more, Eve.
Only
He's
got one cookie.
bogarting.
Wow.
You're bogarting.
Cool.
it's okay. I'm sorry.
Right there.
Well, y'all, we have a great episode today. Joining us, we have our friend Lauren Mundell from the High Curious, I'm going to say Marketplace. You can check it out, HI Curious. But Lauren is the wizard behind that platform. What it is a content creation station is the best way to describe it. She partners her company with local content creators or nationwide content creators with representatives from the equal cannabis space. So maybe if you're a cannabis entrepreneur in the industry and you're like, how do I get my message or get my product out to the masses? This is the queen you want to talk to. She puts your name, your product, your business in front of millions and thousands of people across the country, primarily in the cannabis space. I didn't mean to cut her off, but today's episode is on Zoom just because some folks may be a little under the weather. So for safety of everybody, we're going to have Lauren join us over the digital ones and twos. Lauren, how are you today?
I'm great. Thank you so much for having me. And I'm so happy I'm keeping the germs away, but sad we won't be seshing together today.
I mean, as we alluded to in our introduction, which Eve definitely keeps in every episode where we berate Chris, you really are missing out on some excellent cookies. But don't worry, our hospitality does not stop just for recording episodes. So next time you come down to Sesh, you've got to get these. They're like salted chocolate caramel cookies, and they're about this big. No milligrams included, but by God, do they slap.
Well, I had some cookies from my home grow, all the trim and the butter was made for me by my friend Matt Okram. And I turned that into some cookies and they're like 50 milligrams a piece. And I did have a cookie before.
I would look like Stephen Hawking by the time we get through this episode if I eat 50 milligrams. Jesus, that's a number right there.
Yeah, but I can see you polishing off an entire bottle of wine, and I would be like dead, underneath like the couch if I did that. So everybody's makeup is a little bit different,
That's why I'm like, I love those casual 5 to 10s. And whenever we try or sample like those 50 big boys, I make Chris do the taste testing because I'm scared I'll like start to hear colors. If I eat just about 20 milligrams or more. Y'all, we have a kick-ass episode today. Before we dive into our conversation with Lauren, I want to give a shout out to another small business entrepreneur in the space, our friends over at Seed Money Consulting. I know what you're thinking. We're talking seed to sale today with cannabis. Well, Seed Money Consulting is an accounting firm, a tax group, whatever you may need, they are here for you. They work exclusively with small business owners, content creators, and cannabis entrepreneurs. I know that the tax system is wonky. If you're just a fucking basic job, a 9-to-5er, it's still a bitch dealing with the government here in the United States. These people take the headache out. And if you work in any of those industries I spoke about earlier, you're leaving money on the table by working with any of these fast-acting TurboTax type bullshit. You need to be talking with our friends over at Seed Money Consulting. We hired them originally for something called CFO in a Box, which allows for accounting as well as a little bit of business acumen and advice that they they give to their clients. I'm sure there's a fancier word for it, but we don't have those words. And that's why we reached out and hired the professionals. We're going to be talking about outsourcing and hiring professionals a lot on today's episode. And we would be remiss if we didn't do it for tax season as well. They're located right here in the Denver metro. Technically the DTC, which I mean has shitty chain food, but they have a lot of great businesses that are coming out of that area of the city. So if y'all are looking for someone to help you maximize your potential returns, making sure your write-offs are clear, you're leaving a lot of money on the table, whether you took vacations this year as a content creator, whether you worked in the marijuana industry and bought a new vape pen because you happen to wash every single one of your dart batteries. I don't know who that may be. Whomever the situation may arise, Seed Money Consulting. That's the name of the game. You can find their page on our link tree, as well as you'll see them tagged on our social media from now through April 15th. Reach out to our friends at Seed Money Consulting. I'm talking passionately because these are real life testimonies. They are great folks, and they can put so much money back in your pocket. Remember that trip I took last autumn, Chris, where I just got pissed drunk on the Rhine River? That's a write-off, motherfuckers. That's the great stuff they can do for you as well. Reach out to Seed Money Consulting. They did not say that I had to use 0 cuss words, so my passionate speaking definitely conveyed through the cursing of this episode's ad read. All right, Chris, you want to do the honors since it's our first guest of 2024? You want to start it off with a bang?
Oh my God, this is our first guest of 2024.
Oh, I'm so excited.
Feel so blessed.
I know, I'm sorry. Are you a transplant or a local here to Colorado?
I am a transplant.
Ooh, where are we coming from?
New York.
Ooh, the big city, the big.
That was gonna make you excited.
Are you okay? Are you from the city or are you from like Buffalo?
That's the best. No, I grew up on Long Island, and I spent my adult life commuting from Long Island to New York City for work. So the answer is both.
Okay, you don't really have that big flashy Long Island accent.
Well, thank you so much, Chris. I can.
She was about to say, y'all sound white trash as fuck.
Yeah.
No, I was just going to light up my joint, and I was going to say maybe in a second I'll turn it on for you, because I absolutely can sound Long Island if I really want to. It's super easy for me.
So how did you find yourself coming out west?
I had lived here in at the turn of the century. I lived here, and that's when my first son was born. He was actually born here at a Vista Hospital in Louisville, and then we moved back to the East Coast, and I got divorced, and then I ended up doing that whole New York thing that I just talked about. And I always had a spark in my heart for this place because it's just so beautiful here, and I just thought it was a whole different life that I definitely wanted. But New York just kind of hit me, had to kind of come on like a ton of bricks to me, because I had to go support my 2 children in a New York style on Long Island. So I started working really like a maniac in New York City. And when I started using cannabis at 43, which is kind of a weird point about me, I know.
One thing I'd like to say is, first of all, thanks for sharing the hospital information. We normally have to ask that, so thank you. But then also, hold on. So you never once little toot
No,
here?
I did.
Okay.
I loved the Grateful Dead in high school and college. So it would have made sense for me to be a cannabis user or a stoner or whatever. But I tried it in college, and I did a bong hit, obviously when I should have been having a microdose. And I ended up having what I now know is a complete anxiety panic attack for 14 hours. But at the time I was like, is this what weed makes you feel like? I hate this. I'm never doing this again. So I didn't until I was in my 40s, and it started to become legal. And my husband was retiring from the Navy Reserves, and he was really excited about smoking weed. And I was like, are you kidding me? We're not doing that. And he was like, well, I am. And I'm like, okay, well, I guess you're going to do that. And so after a while, I saw how like he was kind of like happier and like he was more chill and we were having way better conversations. And I was like, whatever that is, I want it. So that's when I started microdosing. And like, yeah, the rest is history. But yeah, once I started, I could not unsee the corporate bullshit where I was working anymore, or in with all the different clients that I was working on, which were all like pretty much Fortune 50 companies, but I couldn't stop seeing the bullshit anymore. And like, I that's when I had to kind of leave that world. And that's when I got into cannabis.
Question. You mentioned working with, I'm doing the hand raise just so I don't actually speak over Chris or Eve in questioning. You working with Fortune 50 companies before you got into the cannabis space, and usually we ask what brought you west, but I have to ask, what were you doing that you were like, fuck this, I'm about to just take over the cannabis marketing industry? Because I mean, it sounds like you just switched gears, like you went from like straight lace to crunchy as can be.
Yeah, I think crunchy was always latent inside of me, but weed had to be the one to pull it out, I think. And also raising two kids, in New York got me pretty straight laced, and like hustle culture really, really hard. A lot of things happen. I mean, at the end of the day, and I was talking about somebody about this today. Burnout is not something that you can feel when it's happening. It's only something that you can really recognize after you've left and you see like a whole new person reemerge because the burned out person was like burnt out. So I left because of burnout, really because of just years of taking client abuse in the corporate space as a PR. I worked in one of the top PR agencies in the world. It's called Ketchum. I worked at Ogilvy prior to that. I ran, $1 million clients at Ogilvy. I ran the Unilever Foods business. At Ketchum, I ran Pfizer, Weight Watchers. I won the Splenda business. I brought on PepsiCo North America. I did a ton of that kind of stuff, winning new business and leading teams and doing really, really cool work. But after a while, the same person said to me this morning, it becomes spreadsheet gymnastics. And all you're really doing once you kind of get to the top of an organization is over promising and under delivering to your stakeholders. I don't, and then like really then just like, and basically also your kids and everyone else in your life, because you never have enough time or, resources to do all the things that you need to do in order to make the numbers that you promised you would make. So at a certain point, that just got really old and I had to do something different.
So after you got burnout, you realize it after the burnout, and you moved, were you scared about just all of a sudden like, okay, I'm leaving this corporate, I'm going into cannabis? Or were you just pretty confident that like, hey, I'm going to pursue this new avenue and I think I'm going to rock the shit out of it?
So in 2008, 2009, I was really into fitness. Like before everyone was into fitness, like I had a rockin' six pack.
Who the fuck is into fitness? What are we talking about? Are we talking like fitness, this donut in my mouth? What are we talking about here?
It's not your demographic.
It's not our demographic.
Hey, we're high performing athletes. I don't know.
I tore my Achilles golfing.
I don't know how you eat so much food and stay alive. So I do think you are high performance athletes. Okay. So yeah, I'd give you guys total props. So anyway, I started smoking a joint and then I forgot what I was saying. Go help me go back.
Chris was asking about cutting the net and going from corporate to cannabis. Sorry, I railroad every conversation. I'm sorry.
It's fun. It was so weirdly not scary because I was so like, I cannot do what I'm doing anymore. And I did, and then cannabis just started like coming to me and I got so excited. So fitness, sorry, that's where I was going. So let me just state. So when fitness, in 2008, 2009, fitness was really just kind of becoming a thing, right? It was like Barry's Boot Camp. You guys probably don't know any of these brands, but I'll just tell you, you know, it was like Soul Cycle, Peloton, all these things. These are fledgling brands at the time. And I was like, I want to be in the fitness world so badly. I want to start a company in fitness. And I didn't because I had small children. And when I saw how exciting I thought cannabis would be so exciting as well, which it is, slash makes you a popper, but also super fun. I wanted to be a part of something new that was like untapped, and that would be kind of like my second act. I didn't really know that it was going to be my second act. I wouldn't have called it that when I was like 43, but I knew that it was going to be like, I wanted to do something that nobody else was doing, because to me that was like fun, and nobody else. Still to this day, I'm like kind of like everybody's corporate person. Like the guy I talked to today, this morning, and I've referenced a few times, he was like my boss. Like he was at Advil. Like he ran the Advil brand for Pfizer for, you know, years. You know, those are the people who kind of watched me go and still are watching, I guess.
Going from working in an advertising to now working in marketing with content creators of cannabis, wanting to go from fitness and landing in wellness and medicine. I mean, you're still kind of on your own trajectory, but you had a basis and knowledge of the industry when you did make the transition, it feels like.
Oh, totally. I mean, and one of the reasons why I should have said this earlier, but I got into cannabis.
Damn it,
really
Lauren.
left. Sorry, guys. Sheesh. I'm all over the place. All right. So, microdosing and really learning about cannabis, I was like, why isn't anyone talking about this as a wellness supplement? I was like, everyone's either talking, it was 2018, right? And so it was like medical, like, but like for people with cancer, or it was for like stoners. And I was like, not either of those things, but here I was being like, wow, when I use this, I just feel better. Like I just feel like all this bullshit that's up in my head feels clearer. Like the anxiety that I've been struggling with just feels less here. Like I can say, I used to over process every single thing that I said. Now things just comes out of my mouth. And, you know, and I for better or worse. And
welcome to our podcast.
And I like, oh my gosh, nobody's talking about this as a wellness supplement. And I also was looking, because at the time I was already into fitness and I was already into wellness. And I was like looking for the people who were kind of like me, my age, who were like professionals who were talking about cannabis, and there was no one. So I was like, well, maybe I should do this. You know, my dad, not down. That was really hard, probably the hardest thing, and it still is the hardest thing. You know, everybody else in the world was like, woo, she's doing this cool thing and not so brave. And like, he's like, why the fuck would you be public about this? You know, so.
I mean, we know that feeling oh too well. Chris and my dad were both Southern raised. And so my dad thought it was just a total pipe dream, pun intended, until he was like, oh shit, like you're paying your bills. Like y'all have got this kind of figured out. And Eve is still too embarrassed to tell her family about us here on this podcast.
Lauren, one thing, I know Kip explained High Curious, but I was kind of confused. So did you start High Curious, correct?
I did.
Okay. And then it kind of sounded like it's almost like a WeWork stage type thing where people can come and you collaborate, or what is it High Curious really, like, what do you do?
Thank
what
you.
What is it you do here?
I think Kip did a really good job of explaining it, but I also think it was a little bit of inside baseball, maybe, because we understand the content creation and brand partnership space. So I'll kind of roll it back. So like I said, my goal, I mean, I believe that cannabis is a wellness supplement, and I envision a future where cannabis is a well-respected, well-studied wellness supplement and that we understand more about it. And on our way to that, we need to educate people about cannabis and about how it helps people become more themselves or whatever it does specifically for them. And so, and I know from my background that influencers and content creators are the vehicle for this, to get the message across as cannabis, that cannabis is a wellness supplement. And so I help content creators work with brands to promote their products. And so what I'm doing is I'm basically a matchmaker, where I take my brand marketing head from my years of working in big agency with big companies, and I apply either, simple or more, complex strategies to how they're going to go to market. And then I help them find the talent that actually is going to do the execution for them. And then I take 30% of that execution. So that's how my business model works. I don't like take an upfront fee.
Okay. So is it like, it's like a marketplace, like your website? Would it be more for a content creator, or like a business would be able to go and shoot you a message and be like, hey, I'm trying to do A or B, and then they could go about it? Because that's interesting.
Both. So when you go to highcurious.com, it's high-curious.com. You will see a content creator marketplace. So think about it like Fiverr, but with really an emphasis on content creators and influencers, and only specific to the cannabis industry. So people can come on.
Okay.
And so the idea is that in a perfect world, in the future, we will be a platform with an agency. Right now, we're an agency with a platform. So what I mostly do is I hear the challenges that brands have, and I come up with solutions by introducing them to the talent to solve their business challenges, whether that be mostly content creators and influencers, because most of the challenges that come to me are about breaking through on social media. And
tell them good fucking luck.
I know, but it's the only way. I mean, you're doing it, right? It's the only way. And so what I'm trying to do with brands, to Kip's, point, is not just these, like, a lot of brands are working with content creators in this kind of like, I'll pay you $150 if you make a reel. And like, is one reel really gonna move the needle for a brand? No, it's not, so it's kind of like Solo Stove thinking that the Snoop Dogg was gonna like sell their Christmas out.
That was a huge fail.
But well, it's really just, yeah, but it was a huge fail because of the in my opinion, my esteemed opinion is that the CEO didn't set the right KPIs. Like, it would have been about awareness. And I guarantee you, so like, everyone knows what a Solo Stove is now. And so maybe by next Christmas, it will have paid off. But like, to think that you're going to go from Snoop to selling a whole Christmas in 12 weeks it's just really, it could be ego, I thought. But anyway.
Yeah. Well, so here's a question, because you have your finger on the pulse and you're heavily entrenched in the industry. Do you see things working in the favor going forward? Or are we worried about, as we continue to kind of decriminalize or even legalize across the nation, that it's going to start muddying the waters for folks in, I'd say, our industry, but in the industry, whether it be—
You mean on social media?
Well, just marketing in general, and like who's working with who. Like, Philip Morris is rebranded and has looked into getting into the space. Like,
I know.
The next thing you know, like, you could be the Marlboro man, but at the same time, it's a little bit different because it's very much a hoodies versus suits. And I mean, you're sitting here wearing a hoodie, but and you come from suits, but when we go to these trade shows, when we have these conversations, it's still an us versus them. And so how do we juggle that balance of creating that rapport without burning bridges and or turning the devil, or putting lipstick on a pig? Like, how do we start to massage those relationships as we see legalization carry across the country? Sorry to get into the Barbara Walters, but I'm very
No, I
curious
think
about your
I
perspective.
love talking about this stuff. So I think that if we get rescheduling, which obviously isn't the ideal, descheduling is the ideal, but if we do get the descheduling, the rescheduling to Schedule 3, then 280E goes away. And if 280E goes away, then there will be more marketing dollars available, because for those who don't know, 280E makes it so that cannabis plant touching companies cannot write off anything that's not operations. So basically, they that's a lot of the reason why there's been a stranglehold on marketing dollars, because they can't. There's just, it's so expensive for them. It's doubly expensive. And why there's a lot of in-house social media managers who probably, when they should have probably hired an agency.
One question I had is, like, when we're talking about advertising, and this is me being kind of dumb, but I mean, like, it seems like one of the biggest hurdles with marijuana, and it's strange because you can be watching TV with your kids, and there's whiskey, there's alcohol commercials, there's all of that. So what needs to change to make it to where marijuana can be kind of, have that same platform? I mean, like, do you ever see that happening, or?
I don't really see that cannabis is going to end up being like on the NFL. I just don't really see that happening kind of anytime soon. But on the other hand, there's this whole Delta 9 situation that's going on, that with in the beverage space, that I could see where those brands might be breaking through in the not too distant future. So, like, for example, if I open my phone right now, I'll on Instagram, I'll have 10 different ads from hemp derived THC brands that are kind of tongue in cheekly telling me that they're going to get, you're going to have a really highly enjoyable time. And, they're like all these kind of like tongue in cheek sort of things. And then the way they're getting around it is by all these like fake landing page things and stuff like that. And I mean, it's amazing. Congrats to them. Like, so hemp is also kind of like almost a competitor to cannabis, kind of. And to go back to Kip's question about like big corporate. Yeah, I mean, that's I think where big corporate's gonna press in, is gonna be in hemp, and not in my opinion, and not as much in like dispensary cannabis, because it's just not lucrative. It's just
Fun fact, hemp can be used to make everything from tables to pants. I heard a campaign like literally years ago in Kentucky, when they maybe accidentally legalized it because Republicans are morons. But at the same time, like, they were talking about all the other efficacies of it. But at the same time, I'm with Chris. Like, what we want to do is destigmatize it and let folks know that, I swear to God, this steak with a smoke and a glass of wine will not only like not burn the planet to the ground, but it's the best way to experience a dining and evening and things of that nature. Even right now, it's in the confines of our home. I think I got those words right, Eve. But at the same time, like, I would love to see that kind of stigma go away, even if we're kind of battling on the inside, which, I mean, it's going to always be the case in the industry. Are you worried about the state of the industry now? So, like, for those that are in the cannabis space, like, we see that obviously folks continue to believe that a recession was incoming. Money should have been scarce. Grocery and inflation costs caused us for the residual income to kind of, you had to budget a little bit differently. And it seemed that cannabis went away, and alcohol is starting to kind of see that same effect, whether it's Gen Z or whatnot. But are there concerns for those that are in legacy or current markets, as we're still kind of waiting for a little bit of like legalized assistance through, whether it be the tax code or just being able to appeal to like marketing efforts, not necessarily Super Bowl, but in general? How do you feel about the current state of the industry as someone that works in it?
I'm feeling like, from my perspective, at least marketing is starting to be realized as being something that companies really need. I think for quite some time, there was a weed sells itself mentality in the industry. And now with competition coming on in all different states, and then there's this hemp thing, we have to be out there telling real stories that are, relatable to people. So I think there wasn't a lot of need maybe for advertising when everybody just wanted the pot, but now it's like there's, you want to reach the cannabis people who are really spending, $500 a month on cannabis, then you have to know you have to really be speaking their language. So for me, from a marketing standpoint, I think especially if we have rescheduling to Schedule 3, we're going to see more spending in 2024. That's my prediction. I don't know from a consumer standpoint. I think that I think spending in Colorado is not a good example of where things are going in the rest of the country. I think Colorado is kind of leveling out, and also the cannabis customers kind of becoming more of a connoisseur. And like, so they're spending differently and maybe, getting smarter, and also maybe have access to home grows and things like that. And so the spending is just going to change. And I hope we get consumption lounges soon so that we get more normalization and more destigmatization. Because just smoking at home isn't like really helping anyone.
No, and you're exactly right. And I think, with the consumption lounges comes opportunities for brands, because otherwise it's strictly dispensary. But quite literally, we have friends. Oh, yeah, you lost the dog, but it's okay. It's all right.
Me?
But we're seeing the same thing. Like Chris has introduced me. Chris, is a little bit more fancy than I am. He introduced me to things like cooking methods and cocktails that I had not had prior to us living together. God, that was like 5 fucking years ago. But at the same time, like, that's exactly it. Like, you don't know what you don't know. And as Colorado has established a more mature market, and I think a lot of it has to do with home grows and the fuck around find out model, where it's like, what happens if we don't use butane and a fucking PVC pipe to make our wax? Because shout out to the house that I lived in before Chris. Like, we see evolution our innovation and evolution kind of comes with experience. But that's one thing that does kind of concern me. It's like, how do we reach new markets without having the same resources that every other industry have? And the consumption lounges allows for folks to try something without having to be like fully committed to a $60 rate for those that maybe don't smoke that much. It's like, well, shit, this weed ended up giving me anxiety, and now that's on the burn pile. It's like, we need to have ways for you to kind of ingratiate yourself into a community as a brand. And so I'm always curious to learn, like, obviously we know some of the hurdles and hiccups that they have, but sometimes it's nice to hear positives. And you speak as if 2024 is going to be a good year for the industry, and I'm excited.
I think so. I mean, I think for what we do, and I think it's going to be good. I feel uplifted about the few brands that I have spoken to, in the course of the past few months, that are all seeing, they really are focusing on their marketing. And that makes me feel confident because they're larger companies. And especially they're focusing on influencers as a part of their overall marketing strategy. I think, I do think spending is going to change. But like, New Jersey's going to pop off this year. There's, like, they're going to have a great year. And then they're going to always be comparing everything to 2024, just like we compare everything to 2020 in Colorado, which it's not realistic.
Well, I mean, so the 2020 snafu, we joke about it a lot because we have a lot of friends in the industry. Everybody, after being deemed essential, nobody ever being at risk for a drug test. And as someone who works from home knows better than almost anybody, you could kind of get away with a little bit. So there was an inflated number during that year, and it felt like everybody was like, oh, this is the new normal. And so I'm wondering where we're going to draw the line to where this is the new normal. And I mean, New Jersey, and we just saw, we teased it at the end of the last episode, unless you've cut it out. I don't listen to our episodes. But, Michigan had 3 billion. Missouri went double platinum and had 1.3 or 1.5, according to the marijuana movement we don't read full articles. I read thumbnails, but those are just what I gathered in the short, brief exit on our episode. So it builds enthusiasm and it gives us a little, cause for hope. And I see CB excited. He finally sat down. He's been anxious as a bee all day. You mentioned one thing in a previous comment, and I want to circle back to it as we start to navigate into the personal questions of the episode. But before I do that, I'd be remiss if I didn't ask if you are a cannabis brand, or maybe you're one of the people that work in our space, or you're an actual influencer. I don't think we're influencers. We're more like the people from Jackass that wear helmets. It's like, don't do this unless you're a professional. But if somebody wanted to reach out or get inside your network, could you give everybody a quick rundown of, again, the website, your social media, and the best ways to contact you? Because we're about to start talking about evolution and dinosaurs and everything under the sun.
All right. So you can find us at hicurious.com. It's hi-curious.com. And you can also reach out to me. My email is lauren@hicurious.com. Find me on LinkedIn, Lauren Mundell. Find me on Instagram at hi.curious. And yeah, those are all the places.
Okay, cool. So here's my first question of the personal side. You went viral for convincing influencers to trim your bud of your homegrown. How did you? You asked me, and I was like, "Fuck!" It's like a Tuesday at 6 p.m. I can't make it up there. I think it was maybe a Monday or a Wednesday, and I was like, "We're recording." But first off, did you convince someone to come trim your bud for you? Rheumatoid arthritis community wants to know. And second off, what's your favorite strain to grow at home?
All right, so let's start off with the strain. My favorite strain that I grew this summer was monkey berry. I got it from
Royal
Sean.
Queen?
From Sean Roby, who Bread and
Bud and
Breakfast.
Breakfast.
Sean
That's
Roby.
my boy.
Yeah, and so Sean actually was my coach the entire summer, and that's why I have such amazing weed. And in fact, Sean and I are developing a grow course together that we're going to be kicking off in March, where you're going to be able to,
awesome.
Yeah, you're going to be able to grow along with me and also have Sean as your coach. So we're going to be putting a course together. So we're really excited about that. So my favorite strain is monkey berry. Okay. And the second question is people to come over to my house to trim weed.
It was so funny. I was dying. I was like, I can't. And then you made this video. You're like, look at all these people cutting my weed.
Yeah.
I was tickled to death.
It was literally like it was really a who's who of Colorado, like cannabis. I'm not going to lie. Like besides you, it was like an Aaron who didn't make it. It was like literally everyone. It was like, McCarter was there, Lauren from Kush Cards, Skip from Stash Logics, Sean, Chris Becker from Honeybee Collective, Dre from Honeybee Collective. It was so many. There were like 25 people at my house, and they were fighting over
free labor.
They were fighting over each other to like go trim. They were excited about it. And Sean, because he's like we call him my sensei, my sensamelia. And he was like, don't let them trim it all, because if you trim it all, then it's going to go you want the leaves on it so that it stays moist and whatever. So he's like, and so they were all kind of like fighting over trimming it. And he was like, keep more back. So I could have gotten I had like 9 pounds. I could have gotten it all trimmed that night, I swear, if I wanted to. But everyone was loving it outdoor.
Really? You mentioned summer. I should have thought 2 and 2.
Yeah.
9 pounds is a nice little yield. A bunch of colas the size of your head.
I did, because I worked with Sean Roby, and that's why we're going to teach people how to get those colas. Yeah, because
they're funky.
Yeah,
this guy knows his shit. For those that are listening that want to know a little bit more about Sean, you can Google him. You can also go to his website. He launched a company called Bud and Breakfast, and it's an Airbnb styled website for folks that are traveling around the country, but you want to be able to puff tough while you're over in vacation. We talk about the cannabis legalization and hospitality lounges here. You pretty much break the law anytime you smoke pot in Colorado after you buy it on a visit. He has eliminated that issue. There's locations not only across the United States, but I'll be teeing off on those in Portugal. We'll see. I mean, you're going over to fucking Thailand. I imagine you'll be staying in those. We'll tease that a little bit, but we're going to talk about it in a couple of minutes. He's a wizard in the space, and he's been in the industry for a long time, from NorCal to Hawaii and everywhere in between. He's got a green fucking thumb. So that's just a little backstory on Sean. He doesn't pay for that ad read. That's totally free because we believe in him.
My home grow was incredible because of him. Number one, my yield was beautiful. And now when I look at like store-bought bud, I'm like, oh, I really did grow something amazing. So it's pretty amazing to like grow something better than you can buy in your own backyard in the summer.
Okay, so we got through the homegrown question. I know that you love to snack as well as we do. So what's your favorite stoner munchie, whether you keep it in-house or you're calling in, you know, you're in Boulder, so you have some dank food up there. What's your go-to munchie snack after you're smoking the loud pack?
I am a Trader Joe's like junkie. That's like my primary grocery store. And I'm obsessed with these organic, I don't know what, that doesn't matter that they're organic. I could give two shits, but they're literally like a Frito, but a really spicy Frito. It's called like the elote chip. And I could go through an entire bag.
Is it flavor filled like with the chip? Because the last thing a Frito is supposed to be raw dog. Like you always got to have some lube on it. Is this something that needs lube, or is this a raw dog situation?
Both. I mean, I think you could totally, it's more like it has a little bit of like a Doritos, a little bit more Dorito than Frito for the powder.
Okay.
Slurry, as they call it.
I'm in.
I gotta try these.
Yeah, I'm kind of in, Chris.
Super good. These are super good. I wish I had them. I honestly almost brought them in here because I went today and I have a fresh pack and I was like, that could be something good for snacking on if I get hungry.
Well, hold on. Okay, so along those lines, though, if you aren't eating your own homemade cookie edible, what is your like go-to edible of choice?
The dialed in, yeah, you know what they are, right? The hash rosin.
Yeah,
gummies.
no, I couldn't hear you, but yeah,
got you.
I mean, like as far as flavor goes, as far as the high goes, I have tried thousands upon thousands of different edibles, and still to this day, like everything about that gummy is just step above the rest. And yeah, I'm not getting paid to say that or anything. And I love gummies, but I mean, Jesus Christ, like it doesn't leave this like nasty, bitter taste. You taste a little bit of the weed. And then the high is pretty consistent.
I agree. And I also like, especially, I think a lot of companies are doing it well now as well, but none of them are strain specific. Like a lot of companies, like for example, Wild with their Good Tide, I think that they taste amazing and they have.
Wait,
like,
Wild owns Good Tide?
Oh my God, right? They're trying to pretend they don't.
Why would you not? Wild is like a great brand that everyone loves and the price point is friendly. Like I don't discriminate on edibles. I fucking eat a goat if it got me. I'll eat a goat anyway. But like I didn't realize that. That seems silly for them to do that because brand recognition, they're in the Miller Lite category. Like I see, I grab, I drink. I see, I grab, I eat an edible. Like why would they try to pivot?
It's not I think it was about grabbing a cannabis connoisseur that would choose a dialed in and trying to sell a $30 pack of gummies rather than so so they wanted to separate themselves from, I mean, it's not necessarily a good brand marketing strategy, but that's, I think, why they did it.
Chris, I couldn't agree more. They don't pay us, but dialed in are fucking fantastic. I've also enjoyed these Nove Bliss bars. They've kind of started to come around with the functional mushroom. I don't know if you've seen these up in Boulder. I know that they have them over at Standing Akimbo Med side, but there's just so many of them. So when we all have the same one, I'm glad to see we're rowing in unison, and we may not be as dumb as we think we are.
Does Incredibles own Nove?
Yeah, that's their high-end one, but it's like a totally different beast in its own right. Like Incredibles, their sweet tarts are my favorite part. And then Nove, I like it because it's like it's like a foodie's edible. Like there's actual fruit like bits in it, and like the chocolate's vegan, and like it's nice. Totally. But it is interesting that they all kind of seem to have those higher end, like it was like Winston was to Camel, right? Like for those that smoked in the 90s and remember Joe Cool. Everybody does, right? Like I'm not just white trash. I mean, I am white trash, but that's not the reason I'm white trash. Everyone smoked Winstons in the 90s. Okay, so we've done edibles.
Lauren didn't, apparently.
My sister smoked Parliaments. I may have smoked...
way back. Well, of course, it's New York. It's a party scene. Everybody knows Parliaments are for Parliament. We'll say what we say. I loved those bastards in my 20s.
I also wanted to say that, did you know that Incredibles sold to Green Thumb Industries? And
either of those are. Who's Green Thumb? Oh, wait, that's not true. I do know that.
GTI.
Yeah.
They're if we're talking about like the mega monsters, the corporate of cannabis, Green Thumb is probably, number 1 or 2, depending on how you look at it. And so Bob, what's his name? Bob, the guy who owns Incredibles, sold. So like, good for him.
That's what it is. Like you want to build your brand up, and the objective is to sell to somebody, and then you retire to some like island somewhere where you don't have to shovel snow off a sidewalk. That's what the Stoned Appetit podcast is, to the moon, right, Eve? Exactly. So it's going to lead me to my next question. If you're not smoking the homegrown, do you have a brand or a strain that you're high on these days that maybe, since you smoke or keep yourself upper echelon, where's that top shelf that you grab?
So I shop almost exclusively at the Republic, which is in Boulder on Baseline. I love it because the flower is grown outdoors right here right near my house. So it just feels like really just you're getting the freshest, best. And I've also, it's woman owned, and they make, in addition to having a grow, they have an amazing manufacturing facility there. So they make tons of really cool products. They're making this new product called Funny Honey. It's a honey lozenge, like candy, basically like a hard candy. And they taste amazing, and they give you like, they're 5 milligrams, so it'd be perfect for you, Kip. They give you like this nice little bump.
Okay, so wait, I'm kind of in on these honey lozenges, especially in the wintertime. I'm not mad about them.
No, they have an indica sativa and a hybrid, and they each have another cannabinoid in them. So like the indica has CBN or whatever, and the sativa has CBG or something like that. And they're really yummy, and also they hit quick. And that's what I really love. I love edibles that hit quick. Like the cookie that I ate before this, because I made it myself with butter, like it could hit tonight at 3 o'clock in the morning.
Yeah. That's a guessing game.
It really is. And that's kind of one of the good things about some of those brands we mentioned earlier is like, what you're going to get every
exactly
time. You're like, fuck, yeah. I made these cookies at home. It could knock my dick in the dirt. And I'm just like crawling for water at any given hour. It's just like 10 p.m. Your legs don't work. It's like Lieutenant Dan. Okay, so now we're going to shift a little bit away from cannabis. And these next questions are presented by our friends over at Starbuds Dispensary. For those that are listening, this Saturday, January 26th, they are opening a little grand opening party up in Greeley for the Northern Colorado Bears. If you're a student of the game, if you're just in the northern part of Colorado, swing by the new drive-through friendly Greeley Starbuds location. Guests who spend money in the dispensary this Saturday will get their complimentary lunch or a little hot cocoa, depending on the weather. I mean, to be honest, it doesn't really matter. I'll drink hot cocoa any season, but at the same time, it really marries well with walking out of there with some fresh carts, some fresh flour, grabbing some free lunch and a fresh hot chocolate. You can't beat it with a stick. So these at Starbucks Greeley, right there on West 8th Avenue, right past campus, the same drag as WeldWorks. I will be on location eating snacks Saturday. So come through, let's dick around and have some fun. Speaking of having fun, Lauren, here we go. Are you ready for the gauntlet?
Right.
Chris, go ahead and give us a little superhero or cartoon question of the night.
What superhero would you be? And what
superpower, I guess.
Superpower. Yeah, that's what it is. Because you don't need to be like a Batman,
Wolverine,
like that. What would be your superpower if you could choose any superpower?
All right. So the name of my character is Auntie Lauren. That's really kind of like who I am in the cannabis industry. And my superpower is connecting
she already has
people.
a name? No, that's not a fucking superpower.
Yes, it is.
Something like teleport.
Oh,
like give yourself like a real superpower. We don't. No.
Yeah, or like you can turn into something.
I'm a girl, okay? Girls, literally, you guys, I'm not joking. I was just at a wellness retreat where someone asked me the exact same fucking question, and people said their empathy and a lot of other things were their superpowers. So
if I had any superpower, I would want to fucking teleport. I-70 traffic sucks. Like my superpower, that's what we're asking. We don't care what your personal, what would you want to have? Like, would you want to be able to
time
fly?
travel?
There we go.
I was going to say time travel would be dope as fuck.
That's a good one. If you could go at any time, let's say you have 24 hours, but you're not allowed to fuck with history. If you could go back into any time, when would you teleport? And you can't say the future because that's vague.
Oh, I would like to go to Woodstock.
Yeah, we'll allow that. That would be a cool one too. I like that answer. We should ask people that because everyone's going to get real stoic, Chris. Like, if you could teleport back in time, when would you go? They'd be like, I want to meet my great grandmother, and be like, hey, like the meme. She's like, yeah, I want to go fucking party in the 60s. I love it.
Or like medieval times. You know, if you were a king during the medieval times, you were pretty gravy.
Okay,
read the
that's
room,
very
Chris.
specific.
Yeah, she's not a king or a man.
Women had no rights in the medieval times.
What if I had to go to the bathroom? No.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
I'm not going back before 1900. No way.
No way.
I'd like to know my grandma as a little girl, sure, but no, I'd rather see something cool like Woodstock.
See, I would go back during the Great Depression just to get a taste of what life was like. No, I'm just kidding.
I was going to be like broccoli. It was probably going to be real bread and broccoli. Damn it, Chris. That was just the best Chris moment I could have asked for. He was like, what about free women's suffrage? Wouldn't you want to go back to
I want to be one of the witches at the Salem witch trial.
Yeah. You just want to teleport back to Salem, mid 1700s, 1800s.
I'll just come out with a big A on my shirt, just like when I come out of the teleportation.
Yeah, like I'm fucked from the start. Yeah, that's right, everybody. I read a book one time. I remember.
And I brought weed.
Now, to be fair, back then there was no stigma to it. It wasn't until Prohibition that we created this whole us versus them in terms of consumption versus everything else. But you're exactly right. Imagine bringing back fresh colas of dank ass nugs, and they're like, "Oh, she is a witch." Well, this is our last question, so you're almost out of the woods.
Okay, so this one, don't think about it. Just say, okay. So it's your last supper, and the deal is you get to invite 3 guests. They can be dead or alive. And the only stipulation is they can't be any friends or family. Okay. So who are you inviting to your last supper?
All right, Dax Shepard and Kristen Bell and Michelle Obama.
Oh, nice.
What would be your main entree that evening?
Everyone to get high with me, of course. And not Dax. Dax doesn't have to if he doesn't want to, but I want his opinion on if like cannabis is really something that a recovering alcoholic, his opinion. Obviously it doesn't, everybody's different, but like there's a lot of headspace around whether cannabis can help people recover or whether it's just kind of switching to another drug. So I'd love his opinion on that. I mean, fucking Kristen Bell is so cool and I just want to hang out with her. I mean, I guess my husband would have to be there, so that would kind of like
no.
I can't. I understand. He won't be there. Okay.
Yeah.
No, he wasn't gonna be one of the people like that I picked. I was just assuming that he was there. And then Michelle, because I just want to be like, you and Barack smoke weed, right? That's all I really want to know. And that's it. So yeah.
Okay. But I can't tell you how much we appreciate you joining us today. Before we get out of here, Lauren, let's give a quick back end reminder of if somebody wants to possibly, let you know about their brand, perhaps have you connect them with influencers, or if they're influencers that want to connect with cannabis brands, what's the best way to get a hold of you or all of that shit?
Yeah. So if you go to hicurious.com, hi-curious.com, you'll be able to do a few things. If you're a content creator, you can apply to become a creator on our platform. And then we'll talk about what your page looks like and how I can help you get brand deals. And then if you're a brand, you can either set up a meeting with me directly from our website, or you can take our brand quiz, which helps me just understand a little bit more about your business and what you're trying to achieve, so that when we talk, I have a little bit more understanding of your business. So you can find all those on my website. And also you can shop for content creators in different markets and who make different types of content. So if you're looking for an influencer who talks on Instagram, or maybe you're looking for a YouTuber, maybe you're looking for somebody who killed it on LinkedIn. I don't know, could be me. But you would be able to find them there on hicurious.com.
Well, Lauren, I can't tell you how much I appreciate you joining us today. We can't tell you how much we appreciate it.
Well, thank you so much for having me.
You say that now, but when you get in the studio, you're going to be like, why did I come down here into this dungeon? But we have fun. So get ready to get high. And of course, for listeners and content creators, people that are movers and shakers in the industry, reach out to Lauren. She'd be more than happy to work with you and your company or brand. Without anything else to say, I'll just leave you with stay high, stay hungry.
Hi, Curious.
Homegrown.
Chris, cheers. But Chris, you cheated there. That's not a real sign off.